Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Safe, Not Sorry, How Dev and Q&A Prepares for Future Apple and Android Releases. Before we begin, I'd like to cover 3 housekeeping items for our viewers. First, at the bottom of your audience console, you'll find a number of widgets for questions and additional resources. When you have questions for the presenter during the webinar, click on the Q&A widget and submit your question. We will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation, and if we run out of time, we will get back to you via email. Second, if you need any tech support during the webinar, please use the help option. Third, and finally, a copy of today's slide deck is available in the resources section at the bottom of your screen. We will also email you a link to the recording of this webinar within the next few hours. With that, I will introduce our presenter for today, Eran Kinsbruner, DevOps Chief Evangelist and Senior Director here at Perfecto by Perforce. Eran, thank you for joining us on today's webinar.
Of course. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you for having me, and welcome everyone for today's webinar. And I hope that since this webinar already catches you once iOS 15 is out, you are much safer and less sorry. But regardless, what I'm planning to do in this webinar is to give you some insights, tips, recommended practices of what you should be doing right now, especially with iOS 15 being already out of the door with few new iPhones, but also we're just a few moments away from Android 12 being GA. So I'm going to try and cover both new major operating systems releases, what's coming in these releases, and how should you be prepared. As mentioned by Shelby, I'm a Chief Evangelist at Perfecto by Perforce, and also an author of these 3 nice books available on all social media, so feel free to get in touch after this webinar if you like to continue discussing any of these topics or many others. With that, as I mentioned, I'm going to start a bit with where we are as of now once iOS 15 is a reality. How is the market looking? What's included in iOS 15, some recommended practices, an overview of Android 12, Q&A, and also, as time permits, a short demo of these new platforms within the Perfecto cloud-based solution. So let's start with where we are from a market perspective. And the market, obviously, since iOS 15 is so new, there aren't any statistic yet, but based on previous years, we know that it takes about 4 to 8 weeks for the majority of the market, at least 50% of it, to adopt and upgrade to the new iOS version. So these numbers that you see right now, with the majority of the market, almost 90% using iOS 14, we're going to cut at least 30 to 40% in the next 2 weeks or so, making the cut even like 50-50, 50%, 50% using the latest iOS 15, the remaining iOS 14. And obviously, since there are a lot of popular devices, and I will soon touch on them, that are still very popular and legacy, but are not eligible to iOS 14. Some of them are still stuck on iOS 12. Some of them are stuck on iOS 13. There are also, in specific regions, some devices that are even using iOS 9 and 10, but these are so niche, we are not going to address them. So if you want to kind of look at this chart 2 weeks from now, you're going to see about 30 to 40% iOS 15, about 40%, 45% using iOS 14, and the rest will be divided between iOS 12 and iOS 13. With that in mind, also, what are the top selling smartphones and why is that important? This is important because obviously it guides you on how to set up your lab, but also it guides you on the adoption of not just the new operating system platform, but also on the platform itself. And as you can see, the iPhone 12, even though it's just 1 year old, is one of the most selling smartphones, platforms in the industry, in the market. This is global data. It's not just in North America. And it makes sense because, when you adopt the latest operating systems, in many cases, you also want to get the latest platform with the latest hardware. But these are some of the top-selling smartphones based on this resource. And by the way, Perfecto with me included are releasing twice a year an index coverage report, which in most cases leverages a lot of market research, but also cloud data that we have in-house, and it shows, not just the latest iPhones and the legacy iPhones, but also shows some of the other emerging smartphones and foldables that we also see going within the different industries. I will touch a bit on foldables when I'm talking about the Android 12 OS because it's important. Let's touch a bit about iOS 15, and iOS 15 is coming, even though the noise wasn't that loud. iOS 15 is a major release with a very important set of features and capabilities that are both end user experience related and performance related, but also appealing to developers that can really take their existing applications to the next level with some of the new APIs, new capabilities, and so forth. I will soon touch on some of the things and the opportunities both developers have, but also testers that needs to be in the lookout from a regression standpoint for their existing applications. So one of the things that comes in iOS 15 is the Share Play. Share Plays allows you to continuously play music, TV shows, and other media, files while you are in a FaceTime call. You would say, okay, what's the big deal? It's maybe not a big deal, but if you do have a running native application that you are behind it, you are the developer, and obviously in parallel, some media files can run, or even within your application, you are embedding some media files and an incoming FaceTime call does come in, this media file will continue to run, and you need to understand, if there are any implications on performance, functionality. Hopefully your app wouldn't crash when this event happens. And you can see here in these screenshots, an incoming FaceTime call that, it's currently running. And also you can see YouTube or other media files also working or in progress while the FaceTime call is happening. So that's one feature of iOS 15, can be challenging for some applications. As I mentioned earlier, and this is kind of across the board, when any iOS release or any Android version is being released to the market, also some user experience and performance improvements are being made to the platform, and it makes sense. So there are some user experience advancements in this release. I just listed a few changes in the emojis, messages. You can schedule FaceTime calls with unique links that you can share through invites and FaceTime links. Video portrait mode. This is new. You can actually capture a portrait video or do a video in a portrait kind of mode like you do with portrait camera or photos. You can actually do also improvements on the, you can see improvements on the spatial audio, and also some grid view that can show you people on your FaceTime calls. So this is kind of a nice UI UX set of capabilities that you can see in the latest operating system. In my mind, these are less impactful on applications, functionality, quality, but again, this is part of the operating system. So I was eager to actually show you this as well. With regards to other user experience advancements, you can see that there is a new tool or mod that is called Focus, and this actually can have implications on your application, because this is kind of your as an end user, the end user ability to set a specific mode of the smartphone or the iPad. By the way, it's iPad OS and iOS, for those of you who forgot. So across these different devices, you can set up a focus mode, and this mode, based on your settings, will report back to the, like you have in Slack, by the way, right? When you're using Slack, you can turn off notifications, or you can announce that you are in other activities, whatever. So here as well, as you can see on the message alert here, even has notification silence with Focus. So basically, if your application does have a set of notifications, like push notifications and other things that are happening within the app that requires the end user, response, it can be many of these, and the user is currently in a different focus mode, it might impact, the application functionality and the user flow. So, for these kind of applications, I do recommend playing a bit with the focus across different iOS devices, by the way, not just the latest iPhone 13 series, but also older iPhones. So you can see if there is any implications on the mod, new settings, and your application notification and functionality. Another user experience that came in with iOS 15 is also an improved set of notifications, like contact photos with larger icons, new Apple Maps application, 3D visualization and landmarks and other stuff. So these, again, in my mind, aren't that impactful on traditional enterprise or other applications, but still, again, a feature of the operating system. This is something which is obviously more interesting, and that's like in any other Apple release, there are changes to many of the sub features or capabilities of the platform. With iOS 15, you're also getting a new Safari browser. And by the way, you are also getting a new Xcode and a new macOS version. And all of this combination, especially when you have this iPadOS, iOS, the cross-platform sharing abilities, it's important to understand that you have a new Safari browser. It means that if you have either a mobile web or a responsive web or a progressive web application that you are currently developing and building, obviously you have a new permutation that you need to test. That's the Safari 15 on a new macOS. And obviously, you will need to test across the legacy, at least latest -1, latest -2, across the different platforms of Apple. So this is really important. And it's not just that it's a new number under the Safari browser, but this browser also comes with some changes, a new tab bar, option to use tabbing groups. You can do voice search within the browser, within the Safari browser, and other capabilities. This is some of the examples of how it looks like the voice search within Safari, some extension. So you can install Safari extension on your phone, like you do on Mac, and choose when extension are going to be active. So this is really kind of bridging the gap between a macOS and a smartphone, like an iPhone. So the new Safari is obviously a major change that will impact any hybrid mobile web or web which is responsive, progressive application coverage and maybe quality. So you do want to include this new configuration in your lab. Another life quality user experience, I would call it, and this is obviously Apple made a lot of changes over the past releases, at least the latest two within the camera. And if you are familiar with the iOS 14 camera, right, when you point the camera into a QR code, and unfortunately we are in COVID time, so every time you go to a restaurant, if you point your camera from your iOS device into a QR code, it immediately opens and scans it. You don't need any QR code external application. It's baked into the camera application. So right now, it's not just that. Apple is taking the camera to the next level, which means you can actually look and use live text in the camera, in the photos themselves, but also in the camera application, like you can see on the screenshots here. You can actually even get some translations within a camera that is pointing into a specific text. Enhanced photos, health, wallet, spotlight applications, all are receiving kind of a refresh. Accessibility improvements with voiceover and image exploration. All of these things are new things which are UI, UX, mostly UX if you are user experience enhancements for our users. In my mind, the camera changes, and we see today a lot of usage of the camera within applications, so camera integration within productivity applications is a common thing. So with these new abilities, as I mentioned very early in this webinar, developers are now able to use many capabilities of the operating systems, and I think this is one of the opportunities that developers can leverage, by using some of these APIs as much as they can to really enrich their existing applications where applicable. So this is also some nice set of changes or enhancements that Apple is introducing with iOS 15. We're not done with the changes. As I mentioned, iOS 15 is quite heavy on changes, and Apple is continuously investing in security. We see it all over the place, and iOS 15 is also getting a new set of changes within the security and privacy. So you can actually get an application privacy report as an end user. You can also use an IP hidden address as part of your mail privacy protection. You can ask Siri, or you can use Siri to keep everything or all the requests on the device, including on-device audio processing, which means you don't need internet to use the Siri, and you're not exposing anything by uploading it to the internet or to the cloud, especially when you have some secure data that you're using within the Siri application. So app privacy report, and keep this point in mind, I'm repeating it twice, the app privacy report is a trend because I'm going to mention it in the context of Android and Google later on in this webinar. But these are a few changes that Apple is producing. And, from an end user perspective, if you do want to understand, or get an app privacy report, which data and which sensors are mostly being accessed and by which application, you are able to get it right now. And this is like you get a weekly usage report from Apple, you're going to get like a security and privacy weekly report. And this is quite interesting because if you have an application that is using too many sensors or too many permissions, etc., and you might not need all of them, but the user will see that this application is kind of maybe for producing a risk to its privacy and security because it's using tens or whatever set of permissions and other access to other data privacy activities, you can you might want to learn more about it and see if you really need all of these permissions, because the user might decide to remove the app because it's producing a risk to him. So the app privacy report goes both ways. It informs the user of what's being used mostly, but it can also be used as part of the development lifecycle by developers and testers to understand what and where is the application used the most. Supported devices, and this is not, you can see if I was just changing iOS 15 with iOS 14 last year, so it's almost the same, but we are just now getting new iPhones, the new iPhone 13 series, which was announced, so it's 4 new iPhones, the iPhone Mini, 13 Mini, Pro, Pro Max, and iPhone 13 Mini, four iPhone 13, that's the series. So you see this list here, plus 4, and an iPad mini, which was also announced and released. So you actually are getting iOS 14 plus 5 new platforms to cover within the iOS 15 family. So this is kind of a nice opportunity to look at your current lab, device testing lab, and by the way, also development lab, and understand which platforms need to be either retired or replaced with the new ones. But obviously, you cannot neglect the new platforms because they are changed, and they have changes in the hardware, but also from a software perspective, performance-related stuff, and other capabilities. And you cannot take any chances. So you do want to have a nice lab refresh for the fall, including the new iPhones and iPad mini. Let's just conclude the iOS 15. We covered all the features and functionalities that Apple introduced. Not all of them have significant implications on your application quality, but we did touch on a few that are able to make your application either suffer from regressions or performance-related issues, or in some cases that I mentioned earlier, some even might cause worse implications. So start testing on iOS 15 daily. Adoption is going to be fast. I talked about it earlier. Expect like 40 to 50% adoption within the next couple of weeks. So iOS 15 should be now as part of your daily regression. That's one. Second, make sure that you are blending the legacy version, at least latest -1 up until latest -3. Usually it was latest -1 and latest -2. Here I'm including iOS 12 because the iPhone 6, which is still popular, is locked on iOS 12. So depending on your usage and analytics, you can decide if iOS 12 is end of life for you. I still see a lot of my customers doing testing on iOS 12 because they are seeing usage from the iPhone 6 family that is locked on this version. If it's not the case on your end, obviously 15, 14, and 13 are important from both legacy regression and functionality perspective. Enhance your automation scenarios with the new UI UX changes. I mentioned earlier privacy reports, camera changes, new notifications, new icons, and permissions. There are going to be a lot of UI changes within the lock screen and the notification panel. So you want to make sure that your application doesn't suffer not just from regression, but also doesn't break the automation because of a new UI or look and feel of the platform itself. So do some debugging sessions, make sure that you're running some regression offline, outside of the cycle, just to make sure that your automation scenarios are still working without any issues due to the new platform. I mentioned security pop-up and interruption, so make sure that, again, these are all, especially with the new multimedia play that you can see within incoming FaceTime calls. If your application does support these kind of things, of course, make sure that there are no regressions, crashes, resource-related competition scenarios, and stuff like that. So these are just few, I would say, best practices that we learn 1 year after the next with the Apple releases, so keep them in mind. With regards to test automation frameworks, nothing changes. Still, if you're testing just iOS, Appium, XUI test are the main technologies that you would want to use as part of your test automation strategy. Appium is currently in 2.0 beta, and we are expecting, I'm mentioning it because we are expecting that once Appium 2.0 is going to be GA, all of the web drivers are going to be decoupled. Right now, Appium 1.x is actually installing all the different drivers, XUI test, UI Automator, and many others. For Appium 2.0, if you want to test with Appium, you can actually install just the client or just the driver for XUI test and still do test automation with Appium on the iOS platform as a standalone. Obviously, XUI test on Xcode on real devices and simulators can be done, fully supported, of course, by Perfecto in its cloud, so you can continue doing XUI test and Appium in parallel in the cloud. Flutter, especially with iOS, has a lot of challenges. I've just recently spoken in the Appium conference on Flutter and Appium. And Flutter today, since it's locked into the application context only, has some limitation when it's testing Android. Pop-up notifications. It's not able to address pop-ups on Android, but it also has some limitations with regards to testing iOS native applications. I don't know if the Flutter 2.5, that's the latest release of Flutter 2.5, with its Flutter framework, is going to play nicely with the latest iOS 15 technology. So if you have a Flutter application today that you need to test on, you have either the Flutter with some unknowns, or you can still use the Appium Flutter driver and either use both or just use the Appium for Flutter up until you make sure that the Flutter technology is stable enough to test also the new framework. These are just few differences because, as I mentioned earlier, I actually gave a tip about maybe utilizing both Appium and XCUI test, and I just wanted to summarize some pros and cons per each of these technologies. With Appium, obviously, you can do multi-language test creation, Java, Ruby, PHP, C#, Python, etc. You can do one script and you can develop it for Android and iOS. And it works across multiple frameworks. But it's very complex. Sometimes people would complain that it's a low-performing framework because it's using the WebDriver protocol, and it's limited with regards to the support of hybrid application testing. On the other hand, XCUI test, it's fully supported by Apple. It is developed and launched through Apple. It's baked into the Xcode IDE. That's why it's appealing to developer. It provides a fast execution of iOS tests, and it's much more reliable and less flaky than the Appium, framework. But it's only for iOS without any other languages other than Swift and Objective-C. So there are some trade-offs here, but I'm a positive guy, and what I recommend actually is to take the two lines here, the pros of XUI test and the pros of Appium, combine them into a single test automation strategy and actually use them. Developers would typically go in favor of the XUI test, the SDETs, or the test automation engineers, which are looking at a much more wider test automation perspective, end-to-end testing, cross-platform testing, would go with Appium. So there is actually room for both technologies. With that, I want to give a sneak preview of Android 12, because Android 12 is in a mature beta, and it's also very close to GA. Once it's going to be GA, it's also going to come with a new Pixel 6 new smartphone. So it's very close and it's coming. And what you can see here, obviously, and that's not a new insight, but Android is still much more fragmented than iOS. You can see 5, even 6 different operating system families being used across multiple geographies. And the majority or the highest usage is Android 10 and 11. There are a very small percentage of usages on Android 12 because it's still in beta. It's public beta. It's available on Pixel devices. But again, it's not yet GA. So latest -1, latest -2 consist of I would say, of more than 50% of the industry. And you can see latest -2 and latest -3, latest -3, latest -4 are the next in line that consists of 20%. So you cannot really avoid not covering Android 9 and Android even 8, because 8% of the market, it's quite huge. You can make discounts, you can take risks here by looking at your own data and analytics and seeing what usage you see in your backend. But this is the generic Android market share across the different families. Android 12, again, like iOS, Android 12 comes with a packed series of changes and capabilities. On the left hand, you can see changes like new UI implications, so quick tiles. You can look at this image and you can see that your screen can now be divided into tiles. You can set up a screen to be built with tiles user experience. A new privacy dashboard. Reminder from the earlier side of this webinar with the iOS privacy report. So you now have also in Android a privacy dashboard. Definitely security and privacy are top of mind for both Google and Apple. Better notifications in the notification improvement section. On-device search. This is actually a nice, cool thing with AppSearch. You do have it as part of the iOS, by the way, navigation, but now you're also able to do on-device searching with the AppSearch new feature of Android. You can do easier Wi-Fi sharing. We know that it's available and quite easy to do with iOS devices. You can use what we used to see only on the Samsung Galaxy Note devices. You can easily switch to a one-handed mode for smartphones, which are kind of phablets and even foldables. You can use a quick tap for Pixel devices. It's a new kind of gesture. And I'm providing here some links that you can learn more. You can look at new widgets, AVIF image support, a new version of image support, a new game mode APIs, and scrollable screenshots. So these are just kind of a subset of changes or things that are coming with the new Android 12. Again, it's in beta. It's coming quite soon. And you also need to keep in mind that, and I was talking about it quite a lot in my previous webinars, since last month in August, Google started enforcing a new context of applications called APKs. So any new application uploaded to the Google Play now needs to be in the format of APKs in a zip file, app bundle. So if your developers haven't done the changes, Google is serious about it, and it's providing all the documentation, all the tools, all the templates that you can use to migrate existing APK files into the APKs new template. So keep that in mind and make sure that you are adhering to the new requirement. This is, I mentioned earlier in the previous slide, the AppSearch. So basically, this is kind of a new smart advanced capability of Android 12, which is part of the AppSearch, allowing you to kind of use it within applications to really quickly find items inside the app. So I talked a bit earlier in the iOS section on opportunities for developers. This is a very cool opportunity for developers to expedite using the search engine on Google devices to help actually expedite the usage or the performance of your applications to the end user. So AppSearch allows the users to index structured data and search over it with the built-in text search capabilities. As you can see here, this is the back and forth in a farmer's market, if you like, application. And this is how you're going to utilize the fast application in-application search capabilities to really improve performance and user experience. So developers, this is one capability that you may want to consider in the upcoming version of Android. I mentioned the APKs. It's mandatory. Again, keep in mind and make sure that you are focusing on that for your next version that you are uploading to Google, to the Google Play. I'll skip on that, but this is kind of, if you like, a supporting material of what is APKs, what are the benefits. But again, this is something that I spoke a bit in the past, and it's really important that you focus on that. This is something that, it's not 100% related to Android 12. It's going to live within Android 12, but it's starting to roll out in the upcoming few weeks. Okay, if you can see, October 21, this is where developers can already start declaring information in the Google Play console. That's a dedicated console that Google is building right now. So Google, as part of its enforcement of new privacy and security, etc., is planning in the first quarter of 2022 to require any new application to be very transparent to the end users and reflect back on the permissions, the APIs, the libraries, everything that is being used, including applications that are containing any advertisement. So anything that the end user needs to know about your application needs to be declared in the new console or a privacy dashboard, if you like, that developers needs to fill in as part of their application submission to the Google Play. So Google is giving the heads up right now. The policy was announced a month and a half, 2 months ago during July timeframe. And almost like every 3 months, there is a new milestone here, and you can see the timeline. But developers needs to already be in the lookout and start planning towards this new privacy policy, looking at what permissions their application are using, which libraries, which APIs, and which ads are being used by the application. If you see that there is something that is being used and it's redundant, because you would need to explain as part of the submission why and where are you using these additional capabilities. So this is not kind of a game by Google. They are very serious about it, and they want you to be as transparent as possible with the end users. So you need to really start doing a full scan and monitoring of your Android application and understand, document, log everything that is being used by the app, so you can report back to Google as part of the next version that you're going to deploy either later in Q4 this year or in the beginning of 2022, when it's going to be a mandatory requirement. Okay, you see here, April 2022, this is the deadline for developers to declare information. It's going to be as part of the Android 12 platform, of course. I will soon demonstrate, so I will skip this image and actually go right now, because I do want to show you something, actually two demos, basically, that shows that from a Perfecto standpoint, when we are looking at our cloud perspective, we are making sure that we are serving at least our clients with immediate support of any new iPhone, Android smartphones and tablets, foldables as well, but also the latest iOS beta NGAs, Android betas NGAs, and same goes for the browsers. And we've mentioned earlier the Safari 15. We're obviously going to support the Safari 15 on the next Mac OS as part of the permutation for our web testing. So let me do a demo right now. I will screen share right now. Let me know, Shelby, if you can see my screen.
Yep, it's working.
Awesome, thank you. So for those of you online who are not familiar with the platform itself, so that's the Perfecto Cloud. It's a fully SaaS solution supporting both manual testing on real devices, virtual devices, emulators and simulators, and desktop browsers. We also have support for all the leading test automation frameworks from Appium, Selenium, Espresso, XUI Test, Quantum, which is our open source BDD technology, and Cypress. What we are enabling our users to do is to do manual testing and automation on real smartphones, tablets, and browsers. As you can see here, we already have a real Android device, Google Pixel, with Android 12 beta. And you can see that this device, even though it's a beta, we already allow our customers, as part of their either Appium or Selenium testing, as well as manual testing, to do testing on the latest and greatest Android 12. That's the latest platform. If you want to copy it into your Appium, as part of your Appium capabilities, you can actually select here the different language binding that comes with Appium, Java or Python, and copy these capabilities into the script. You can do whatever you like with this device. You can do web testing on a mobile device. You can install the application or just launch an existing application, like let's say the calculator. And once this application is launched, you can do obviously manual testing on this application, but you can also bridge towards automation by launching a very unique and actually market differentiator object spy that allows you to really look at all the objects. So when I click on the clear, you can see this is the resource ID, okay, CLR. So I can actually get a smart locator, and smart locator is very a critical game changer from a Perfecto standpoint, because if you use it within your Appium scenarios, this is the most recommended element that you would use as part of a test automation script. Same goes for other operator. This is the multiplier, etc. So we can scan and look at any object on the application itself, but also on the system level of the device. So you can do manual and automated testing with this platform. Again, this is the immediate support that we already have today within Perfecto on Android 12. Let's see. I see that my iPhone with iOS 15 is currently in use, and that's annoying. But you can see here, and you can trust me that this device runs on iOS 15, and once it's being released, if it's released while I'm still in the demo, I will open it myself. But this is a real device in the cloud running the iOS 15. If I want to test on a virtual device as well, like a simulator, I can actually do it as well, and I can launch an iOS simulator. For iOS virtual devices, we haven't upgraded yet this cloud. We do support iOS 15. We haven't upgraded this cloud to run iOS 15. But like I've done with my virtual with my real device on Android, I can do the same thing on a virtual simulator on the cloud for manual testing. Let's just check quickly if it's being released. Let's see if I'm lucky. I'll just filter by iOS. No, this device is still in use. Never mind. But we can see here that I have the virtual device on iPhone. This is the iPhone XR that is being launched. This is a fresh new virtual machine. This is why it takes a few more seconds. But this is a virtual, not a real device that you can use for your development and testing activities. So Perfecto supports both real as well as virtual devices. With that, I just want to close the demo of the manual testing, but I do want to show you something which is kind of an automation demo. Let's see if I can do it now. So this is a very basic demo of Selenium, but here in this demo, I'm testing both real devices and virtual devices, and I want to show you that once I'm running, and this is a test that I'm running in a different cloud, so I'm going to click on Run here, and here I'm going to test on a responsive website a set of real devices and desktop browser permutation, Chrome. I can go here and show you a few of them. So Galaxy Note 10, S9, iPhone 11 Pro Max. I can obviously add the new iPhone 15. I can add the Safari 15 as well. So all of these configurations are now added into my execution. And now I can actually go to my different cloud, that's the demo cloud, and I will see the execution in the live stream. I'll just filter based on my name, so you won't see all the other noise. But you can see here that I'm testing a Boston Globe on both real devices and browsers. Let me just try and capture just one. This is an example of one browser running the Boston Globe. But this is important because, as I mentioned earlier, Apple as well as Android are making changes also to the browsers with the new Safari. So if you have a responsive or a progressive web and you want to test it across both real devices and browsers, obviously, across different screen sizes and resolutions, this is exactly what you're going to do. And you can see how fast it runs in parallel. And at the end, obviously, you can go to the report library and see everything that was executed across devices, browsers, operating systems, and vice versa. So I just wanted to show you this in a very short demo. The ability is to run both manual testing, automated testing on real devices, virtual devices, and desktop browsers. And with that, in the time that is left, let's see, I will just stop sharing my screen. With that, I would like to leave just a few more minutes to few questions, and whatever questions that comes later, I'll be happy to address also after the webinar. So shall we, do we have any questions for now?
Yes, for sure. The first question from the audience asks, are there any specific changes to my lab coverage with the two new platforms for iOS and Android?
So yes, for iOS, immediately you have the changes because you have the iPhone 13. So I would recommend, if you can look at your analytics as part of your lab and see which devices, which operating systems aren't in major usage by your end users as well as your testers. Make some room for the new platforms, iOS 15 on iPhone on the iPhone, sorry, iOS 15 on the iPhone 13 series. But also keep in mind that we are about a month away from the new Pixel 6 on the Android 12. So also make room for at least one new permutation with regards to that new platform. So this is for your mobile lab coverage.
Great. The next question asks, what test automation changes should I be concerned about in light of the new releases?
So you wouldn't know up until you run your existing regression suite. Typically, in an organization, the regression suite is one of the biggest ones. And in this case, a subset of it will be either used for monitoring or other test cases. But what I would do right now, if you haven't done it already, run a full regression cycle on the new iPhones with the new operating systems. by the way, you can do it also with the Android 12. We have it support as beta in the Perfecto cloud, but do a full regression and see what kind of elements might have changed. Look at what pop-ups and UI changes might break your existing test automation scenarios, especially if you're using CI, and CI currently is kind of a black box. It's running and you only see the results in the report. So make sure that you're not breaking any build acceptance testing by running the regression offline outside of the CI, and capture all the changes, either timeouts, elements that weren't found, UI, UX pop-ups that you weren't expecting and are now a reality with the new platforms. So you wouldn't know up until you run them, but I just gave you a few examples of things that might break your automation, especially from my previous experience. So again, new elements, new pop-ups, new UI changes that might cause some issues in your application.
All right, and I think the last question that we have time for is, are there any web testing related changes I should be concerned about as well?
Yes, and people tend to forget, that's a very interesting question. People tend to forget when they hear Apple and iOS, they sometimes just focus on iOS 15 and the new iPhones. And this is, by the way, why I highlighted in my webinar the new Safari version. And the Safari is not coming alone. It comes with a new Mac OS version as well. So you are upgrading your lab. I mentioned earlier that you need to change your lab for mobile. You also need to change your lab from a web perspective, adding a new permutation of Safari on a new Mac OS. And since this Safari version comes with new features and capabilities like the tab groups and others, you want to make sure that you are also doing your Selenium regression cycle, simply because Cypress right now only supports the other browser, so it doesn't support WebKit. So if you're using Selenium, and you most likely are using Selenium as part of your automation, run a full regression cycle, especially on the Safari 15, on the new Mac OS, and try to capture any, again, elements, pop-ups, changes to the UI that are breaking your application. If you're using different languages, different translations, etc., make sure that your test cases are still valid and that you do not have any hidden, breaks or regression. So to the original question, yes, there are implications, there are risks of regression to your quality, but also to the test cases that you are using with the new web changes from Apple.
Great. I think that is all that we have time for today. If we didn't get to your question, we'll reach out to you afterwards via email. So thank you to our audience for your attendance and participation today. And of course, thank you to our presenter, Eran. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you.